Well, hello to everyone who's not here back yet with us. So sorry about that. For those listening in audio form, you probably have you probably know what happened. But, I have Xfinity, and Comcast is basically the worst company to work with on the planet. And I pay for 160 megs, and I'm getting like 10. So my internet crashed.
That sounds exactly like my internet.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm also paying for the same amount and getting like 12. So,
What's
life
the
is
internet?
good.
What's the internet like in Canada?
We don't have Comcast, so I'd say that's a win, but it's pretty oligopoly. There's
Sure.
There's like 3 companies that control all the internet, and we don't have Google Fiber yet.
It's the same. They're just not named Comcast. Yeah.
It's the same. All right. Well, let's get. So you guys have already started on the legacy rankings, from what I understand. Where were we at with Blackhead? Like, let's talk about it.
We just started talking.
We talked a little bit about just kind of the brutal nature of playing against this deck. It is just punishing.
In what way do you think it's punishing?
If you don't have specific cards lined up for it, you basically actually can't win.
Yeah.
I mean, without Surgical, Fairy Macabre, or Leyline of the Void, I don't understand how you could actually win a game against this deck.
I think that because of how black blue Reanimator plays out in this, like, in a very specific way, decks started cheating a lot on their graveyard hate and trying to attack it from maybe a more Storm perspective rather than a Reanimator perspective, and because of that, like, decks like this can really show up and shine.
Yeah, if you're looking for a linear deck, this has got to be up there as far as choices go. It's also quite inexpensive, which I think draws a lot of people to it in paper. You're only looking at, it looks like, 2 Badlands and a Bayou, which compared to like a lot of the Delver lists or even Sneak and Show, it's very manageable.
Yeah, absolutely. Chantelle, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say I definitely agree. This, I think, has the ability to combo off much more quickly than Black Blue. Like, you're looking at very often a turn 1 reanimate, and if you don't have the answer, you aren't on the play, like, you might just be like shit out of luck. Oh, probably shouldn't swear.
I mean, it's a feeling you get a lot playing against this deck.
Yeah.
It's just, this deck is very frustrating if you're not prepared. And sometimes if you are, man, I feel like I've lost a lot to this deck where I have plenty of cards for them and just, don't draw them and die on turn 1, basically.
Yeah. Mason says that, is this real life? Is, like, my internet crashing again? Can you guys hear me?
I got you.
No, you're
okay. my websites are crashing, so I'll have to trust you guys on the rankings of decks because my internet's stopping working. I think that there is a real amount of, like, this is the cheapest deck and it, like, wins, right? Like, and that plays more into Moto than it probably would, like, if we were doing SEG rankings, right? If, like, it was a bunch of legacy opens and we're doing our typical power rankings, how we do them, this deck probably wouldn't show up. But because it is on Moto and because it's inexpensive, it's something you need to prepare for if you're going to play Legacy on MTGO.
No, I think.
Yeah, there's. Sorry, go ahead.
I think in paper too, like in larger tournaments where you don't have people who are very dedicated to Legacy, this is an easy thing to sleeve up for, say, a Grand Prix that's in your area or something that you might just want to jam if you're not super familiar with the format.
Sure.
Definitely. It's a lot easier to borrow a Bayou and 2 Badlands than it is to borrow,
4 Underground Sea.
4 Underground Sea, 4 Volcanic, and a Tropical or whatever.
Sure. What deck is next on the list, Michael?
Sultai Delver is next up at about 8%. That's pretty similar. I guess Reanimator is at 6. So Sultai Delver, this is the Deathrite Shaman Delver Tarmogoyf list.
Yeah. Where do you think this deck sits right now, Chantelle?
I think it's pretty well positioned. It has enough interaction to pressure the combo decks that have been popping up more and more since the banning of top, and it has a fast clock. Like, it has one of the fastest clocks for a fair deck.
Okay.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Where do you not want to play this deck, Michael?
Well, I like this deck a little bit worse than I did when Miracles was legal, primarily because Abrupt Decay is so clunky. My biggest issue with this deck generally is that this is a Delver deck that somehow isn't that bad against Chalice of the Void. And I'm saying that as like sort of a good thing, but it's a backhanded compliment. This deck is playing like a lot of 2s. You're playing 4 Tarmogoyf, 3 Abrupt Decay, 4 Him, and 2 Lilianas that are 3s. Plus like a Leovold and a Tombstalker, or 2 Tombstalkers. And I have found this deck to be a little bit clunky in the Delver mirror specifically. I think this deck is a pretty big dog to Grixis.
Sure. What's up next on the rankings?
Following Sultai Delver, we have Sneak and Show coming in at about 8.5%.
And this is coming in third place?
Yes.
Okay. So this deck just won a couple of bigger legacy events, if I'm not mistaken, that were not taking place at the SCGs or online, just like 100-man events that on the east side of the United States. People are saying that this is the biggest winner from top being banned. How do you guys feel about that, Chantelle?
I don't know if I'd say it's the biggest winner from top being banned, because I think Miracles was actually a very good matchup for Sneak and Show, but I definitely think that it is one of the decks to beat right now. It's like doing some of the most unfair things more consistently than many other decks.
Yeah, and I think that it's consistency that is kind of the biggest boon to this deck. Like, it's just so easy to show and tell people.
It is. I think this deck is sort of an oddly secondary winner from the top thing. Like, although Miracles was a good matchup, I think that some of the decks that people liked to play against Miracles were not necessarily good matchups. This deck has probably the best Grixis Delver matchup out of any of the combo decks. This deck has a really good Elves matchup. I think in general, most of your like bug matchups are pretty good. So I think although like Miracles itself was a pretty good matchup, some of the decks that were maybe being held down by Miracles are also good.
Does this mean I'm gonna get lost or he's gonna get lost again?
I don't know. We'll see. Hopping on to Michael's point, I definitely agree. Like, we've seen a resurgence in 4-color decks. And being able to run Blood Moons out of the board and cast them on turn 1 or turn 2 is like, it's a very big pull to playing this deck.
Yeah, I think that this deck
to actually be playing. It might actually.
This is so bad. This is so bad. You there, Michael?
We might have lost him. Oh, we lost him.
No, I just kicked him. I'm gonna send him the link again. No, I think that what you're saying is absolutely correct. Like, its consistencies come in from its cheap ways to get more cards, and filter through its deck, and it just does it better than most of the other combo decks because it has a large amount of its pieces, right? When you are trying to win with Storm, right, you have one win condition and Past in Flames, and you basically need to get either the win condition or the Past in Flames to go off, right? Whereas with a deck like this, you have a lot of sneak attacks, a lot of show and tells, and you're just able to get there more often. Obviously, you also are less resilient, quote unquote, because you have less interaction because you have more threats.
I agree. The version with Omniscience has been really popular in my local meta, where you just show and tell and omniscience because people were getting wise and playing like the creature bounce effects or that Drake that bounces a creature and like dealing with the creatures that way, or containment priests, and you just like, oh, omniscience, hard cast my Emrakul.
Mhm.
GG.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have often on the shows kind of try to tell people like those are to us like very different decks, and
It still has like the same like sneak attack base package as well, like
sure.
the blue red like splashing one omniscience, or there's even like a blue black Omnitel list now. It's just like
Yeah.
people are going wild.
Coming up next on the list, we do have Storm coming in next. This deck is former host Matt Kling's favorite version of the deck. Pretty popular deck. Like people really love storming people out. Have you had any? Have you ever tried to play this deck, Chantelle?
I'm currently in the process of trying to teach myself not this version, not ad nauseum tendrils, but the Epic Storm version with Glimmering Wishes.
Sure.
Which is maybe the hardest thing I've ever done in Magic.
Okay. What makes playing that version so difficult?
Just the like the sheer amount of lines that you have. Like, oh, I could try to combo to get a passive planes to flash everything back from my graveyard, or I could try to combo to get a Glimmering Wish to play a like a pact to try and do XYZ, and then figuring out which lines you're able to do depending on your mana constraints, and also playing the does my opponent have a force of will game, which is very, very taxing.
Sure. I think that one of the things that I really liked about just the ad nauseum version is it does just get to be, like I said, that Past and Flame stack. And like Lion's Eye Diamond is just kind of a broken Magic card, and being able to play with that card is really powerful. Coming in at number 1, we have Grixis Delver. This deck is apparently when I kicked Michael out, I kicked him out for good. This deck has so much of it all the time. You know, whether you're trying to be the young Pyromancer, True Name Nemesis deck, or the Delver, you know, a more all-in Delver variant, this deck can be built in so many different ways. Whether it's playing Stifle or whether it's not playing Stifle, like there are so many different ways that this deck can be built that allow it to adapt to the metagame, similar to the way that you kind of expect a green deck or a green mid-range deck to do. And this deck kind of occupies that space a little bit without having to play green itself.
No, I definitely agree. I think its resurgence speaks a lot to just the power of consistency and being able to out-tempo your opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. So because of the technical issues, I think we're probably going to skip the Deck of the Week segment this week, and move right along, if that's okay with everybody. Let's go right into our training grounds, which we actually brought you along and wanted you, Chantelle, to be a huge part of it. And the training grounds that you selected is surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that's actually, it's very important to me. I would credit most, if not all, of my success in Magic to the group of fellow grinders here in Edmonton who I've been able to work with and build relationships with to better myself, but also to better like the community as a whole together.
Awesome. So where do you think that, I love that email address, Michael. Where do you think that you start with that? So like when you are starting out in Magic, right? You decide that you want to go play PPTQs, or you want to go play at FNMs, or you want to go play Grand Prix. Where do you start? How do you find people to surround yourself with at that point?
For me, it was like, as a green, young, fresh-faced Magic player, going to my first GPT and playing against the players that people be like, oh, you played against them, they're very good. And being like, okay, these are the people that are like the mid bosses or the end bosses of our community, and doing everything that I could to learn from them in games, but also be able to pick their brain if they were open to it, to talk about decks or to talk about lines after a game. And then from there, as my interests grew to be more competitive, it's about finding people whose interests are also competitive, and then you just are able to come together to test or to lend each other cards or to hop on a Google Hangout at 3 in the morning in the middle of a draft league and pick each other's brains. And
oh man, 3 in the morning. You guys are way more dedicated than me. So I have a question about that, because oftentimes when we get asked, like, how do you find people? I always say Magic players are nicer than you think they are. Like, especially the better you get at Magic. Usually the better you get at Magic, the more open people are to actually like interacting with you. Weirdly enough, the social problems that people say happen in Magic, I feel, and I could be wrong, happen less and less the better you get at Magic. People become better at interacting with each other, and it might just be because they're forced to interact with people through playing more Magic. But I've found that when I wanted to improve at Magic, it was relatively easy for me to just go up to somebody who was better than me and say, hey, can we play a few games? And then eventually become friends with them. Is that something that you've experienced as well?
No, I definitely agree. I think there's definitely like a certain type of person who is the LGS kind of grinder who isn't looking to play more competitive Magic, that can oftentimes, like I've heard anecdotes from a lot of women and a lot of people that they encounter these people and they're kind of like not maybe rude or like not welcoming or not friendly, or they make them feel unwanted at their local game store. But as I personally have gotten better at the game, I find that less and less, and I am able to more and more surround myself with people who are actually working towards larger Magic related goals.
I think that's a really good point. And it's also about how you present yourself, I think. Like, it's maybe hard to receive help from people if you aren't really putting in a lot of effort on your own, at least to some extent. But I definitely think that when people see you trying your hardest to get better at something and taking something seriously, they generally respect that and are happy to help you with that goal. And I've certainly found that to be the case.
Yeah, one thing that you mentioned, Chantelle, and I think it's pretty key, is finding people with goals, right? Like, it's really easy to make friends with people in Magic because, I mean, people want to associate with people. That's why they're going to play the game of Magic. But while you're trying to improve, you probably gravitated more towards people that either wanted to play PPTQs or wanted to play in GPs that you wanted to do, right?
Absolutely. Like our group of like grinders here, to like get into our crew, it's like the goal is, do you want to play on the pro path? And then if you want to do that, we'll definitely invite you to go on road trips or do testing or borrow decks, because it's like we're all of the same mindset and working towards the same things.
Yeah, and once you've gone on those, like, I'm really glad that you mentioned road tips, because I think that a huge part of this is your goal here is like to get these people, the best people that you can get. It's really important to build relationships and like being open to both inviting new people into those relationships and also being willing to ask to be invited into those kind of relationships is like really important, right? I would not be half the Magic player I was if I wasn't open to invite new people to play test with me. And you know, we set rules upon like who we let into our like testing team here, but we will play test with anybody still. Like, it's not that we won't play test with you. It's like there's only so many people that can like have access to our deck lists for PPDQs and RPDQs in our area. It's not that we don't like you. It's like we'll still play test with you. Like that's not a problem. And you have to be open to to doing that, right? Like you can't be above that other person. And let's be real, like none of us could possibly be above anything, right? Like we're just people on a podcast. We're not like platinum pros. I mean, Michael's over here like a future platinum pro, so like, you know.
Well, I appreciate your vote of confidence. It's very kind. Yeah,
I can't believe
as Paul would say, future silver platinum pro.
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't go to Richmond this weekend. I mean, I get it because like it would be really expensive, but like, come on, man, you got to get gold.
Well, you know, gold is attainable. You just have to win a pro tour. It's easy.
That's platinum. So
so it's even easier. I don't know what we're even complaining about.
Michael, you kind of had an easier path to this, I feel like, than a lot of people who are trying to get better at Magic, because you were really good really fast and you were just invited to play test with people.
So that's true on some level, but a lot of that comes down to like working on the game on your own too, like not necessarily waiting around for people to, you know, be your friend or help you. But it has to be like, ultimately, although you can make a lot of great friends through Magic and it is sort of a social game, it's also a very like kind of solitary pursuit. And especially playing like higher level tournament Magic, you have to be, I think, sort of self-reliant to some extent. Like it is an individual game that you play with friends for the most part, right? So you have to have a little bit of ambition and just kind of get to it on your own to some extent. I think that like when you're starting, just keep working at it. You would be surprised at the amount you can improve.
How did you find yourself in those important relationships once you had done that though?
I think mostly just like I think a lot of those relationships developed out of just genuinely being friendly and interest in Magic. You know, asking people questions that didn't have intent outside of trying to learn. Right. I mean, I think if you're genuinely interested in learning, people see that in you, and I think that really like that's what sort of playing with new people is all about, right? Like you're hoping that I can learn from you and you can learn from me, and together we can be like greater than the sum of our parts.
Yeah. So Chantelle, is it okay if we address the elephant in the room that's stupid and shouldn't exist?
Sure.
Do you want to kind of start and get what I'm hinting at?
Yeah. My experience as a woman in Magic, I think, is a little different from your gentleman's experiences, and that's especially starting out as a Magic player. I know that there is a definite drop from women playing at home to women playing at their LGS to women playing competitively.
You think so? I don't know.
A little bit. And it's something that I know I had to work through as a newcomer to the Edmonton Magic scene, and as the only woman who really plays here competitively, I'm fortunate that it's gotten to a point where the comments like, "Oh, it's so nice to see a girl here," are like very minimal and very rare. But for a while, it was just a part and parcel with this being a hobby.
Did you find it hard to, and if I go, like, if I ask a weird question, you can just tell me to shut up. Did you find it hard to manage some of those relationships early? Like, did you feel like there were weird pressures put on you in the form of like people were overly helpful or scared to help you? Did you find like, and if so, how did you manage that? And what kind of advice would you give to other women that are trying to get into the competitive scene? Because you are like, I think would say that you are becoming pretty popular in the Magic community, as far as like people want to see you succeed. They want to see non-binary and women in Magic grow. Like, it is important to the Magic community, I think, at large, to see more of this. And you are becoming a part of that. Like, people want to see you succeed, to see more of that. Is that a weird pressure? Like, I'm asking a lot of questions at once, but
Yeah, it's personally, I think one of the areas that we still aren't seeing a lot of women is on the competitive side. Like we're starting to see more women doing coverage and we're starting to see more women content creators, and it's super awesome. But since Melissa DeTora got her full-time job at WotC, which is amazing, looks so awesome for her. There's kind of like this sad little no women top 8ing things.
They keep taking them. It's like they take Jackie, they take Melissa.
Yeah.
And it's fair for them, right? Like they need diversity in their workplace also. It's really important for
Absolutely.
Wizards to have that diversity inside of WotC, but at the same time, like you are also taking the players that are doing well that would get more women to want, like that they could identify with, to want to go out to GPs, right?
No, I absolutely agree. So like my goal as like a female Magic player specifically is to try to encourage more women to come out and play this game, because it's an awesome game, and I like truly think that like it's been a great positive influence on my life. But is there added pressure? Definitely. I know it's something that a lot of women have spoken about, like Emma Handy, who is a Star City regular. They talk about this feeling that like if you lose on a feature match, like you're letting down all women, and like having to overcome that.
That sounds like such a.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, Michael? The next time that you
all diabetics, they're all gonna criticize me. Yeah,
it seems
that's tough.
It seems so unfair, and I guess the real question is did you find that surrounding yourself with the right people has made that easier on you?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like I kind of am just like, as weird as it is to say, like another one of the guys here, where I can just like moan about a bad beat or like ask people's opinions on decks. And I've gotten to that point in my relationships where it's just magic, which is kind of amazing.
It is unfair that as you do well in Magic, that there are more pressures put on you, and it's kind of weird to think about from like, because I'm not gonna lie, like I've had feature matches and they're already really stressful, so it's not really fair for Emma to feel those pressures. And I hope that you know that there is a lot of support behind you, and we as a Magic community do want to see more diversity, and we on Constructive Criticism also want to see that, because Magic's really fun.
No, I definitely agree, and I think as more women come into this game, there's like this great support network for women now, where like I would definitely recommend for any lady looking to reach out to other women. Ladies on the Grind is a Facebook group that is just full of awesome women who talk about their bad beat stories and their decks, and like you can organize a room at a GP because you don't want to stay with some random dude. It's really, really great. So I would definitely recommend checking that out.
Oh, that seems like an awesome network. Actually, being able to stay with the right people at GPs seems powerful.
Yeah, that's a really cool resource. And at the same time, although you feel that pressure, I hope that like you and Emma would also both realize that means there are a lot of people that look up to you and appreciate your playing and your success.
Thanks. It's really nice.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up really quick. So I do want to say that kind of put a bow on this. So I think that it's important to know that like the better you get at Magic, the more likely it is that people that you're going to interact with are going to be kind and be willing to take you in and try and help you get better. And that's an important thing to remember. The other thing is that it's important that those people that you're trying to interact with have similar goals to you. At the end of the day, if you and this person that you're interacting with are like going to tournaments together and you're trying to get to the Pro Tour and they just want to like get a couple of packs, you are not going to have the same experience and it's not going to be as fun for either of you. Like, while you and that person can be friends, you're just not going to have the same success rate that you could want to have if you are that separate from each other. And then be open to meeting new people. Like Magic's really fun, and like there's a lot of people that you can meet and develop those relationships with. And then Aaron was on Twitter mentioning some stuff the other day, Chantelle, about some resources in Magic for women. Do you know what some of those are that they can check out other than the one you just mentioned?
I don't have them off the top of my head, but if you're not following Erin Campbell on Twitter, I would definitely recommend it because she is like the champion of the ladies. She's at Original Estrus. And their back podcasts of the Girlfriend Bracket are an amazing resource as well.
I think that podcast actually ended.
Yeah, it just wrapped up, but their old podcasts are still online, and there's a new one, Married to the Game.
Oh, cool.
Elantris and Jennifer Mullins.
Okay.
The streamer. She plays Merfolk. She's super awesome. They talk about Magic as well, that I would definitely check out.
Cool. So it sounds like there are a lot of people out there that you can get in contact with, and I would recommend anybody who's trying to make friends is just reach out to people. And honestly, like, Twitter is such an awesome tool for that. So I'd recommend creating a Twitter account and like getting in touch with the people that you look up to, because there's a good chance that they're probably, if you look up to them, they're probably pretty nice. Like it's just easy to be nice to people that you share such a great interest with. So don't forget that you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/ccmpg to become a patron of the show, starting at $1 or more per month. Anything that you can donate is really appreciated. And if we get enough donations, new patron goal, I will get rid of Xfinity because this was embarrassing. Oh my god!
I think we have the same internet, so mine proceeded to die immediately after yours.
Yeah, that was hysterical. Yeah. Oh man, they're so bad. Why do they have such a monopoly? It's so terrible.
Capitalism.
It's all right. Don't forget that you can also join the conversation by going to our Facebook group. You can find all of the links to our Facebook group, our Discord channel, all on the bios page on our website at constructivecriticism.com. Where can people find you if they want to talk to you directly, though, Michael?
You can find me on Facebook. My name is Michael Hinderrocker. You are totally welcome to add me as a friend, message me, anything like that. You can also find me on Twitter at MagicMikeMTG.
Yeah. Chantelle, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at CTELLE Campbell with a P.
With spelled like the soup.
Like the soup, yeah. And I'm also on Instagram and Snapchat under that tag if you like pictures of food or dogs.
I love pictures of dogs. So you can find me on Twitter at Spencer13H. You can find me on Facebook at Spencer Stephen Howland. You can find me every week here on constructorcriticism.com. And kind of as we mentioned before, if you want to talk about Sealed, we actually do a How Would You Build It segment on my limited podcast on limited time only at the end of the show every time we can. So check that out. Also on constructorcriticism.com. For everybody who watched live today, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the problems. To everybody listening on the podcast, I am so excited to edit this episode and have it sound so different than it did live. So yeah, I'll let you know when that's up, and you can tweet that out, Chantelle. But you can also join the conversation by going to Twitter and tweeting with hashtag Would That Be Good. Hashtag Would That Be Good is our Twitter outreach program. If you tweet it, we will read it. And the first one we have is just drafted at Minotaur Tribal. Hashtag Would That Be Good. Hashtag MTG. This is I believe it was by Oliver. And this deck does look pretty decent.
I've had like a bunch of Minotaurs be pretty good a number of times. The Lord is obviously like at least fine, but the 4-mana one that exerts, that guy's really good.
Emberhorn Minotaurs. Yeah, he's really powerful. Merciless Javelineer, also in those colors, is going to be pretty powerful.
Oh, and the deck just casually has an Archfiend too, because
Sure.
Yeah. What else would you want?
Why wouldn't we? Yeah, exactly.
Posting a photo of the draft deck I was bragging about. Hashtag Would That Be Good. Hashtag Still Nonsense. Hashtag Boom, as Michael likes to say. So this is the deck that he was tweeting about that we couldn't see last week.
Okay. Oh man, this deck looks awesome.
I I'm so confused. This is so many colors, Matthew. Oh, but you have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Double Vitalist, Channeler Initiate, a decent amount of Cyclers, Drake Haven, and a Sandworm Convergence, and an Approach to the Second Sun.
How are you casting your Archfiend, though?
Gift of Paradise. And Naga Vitalist. This deck is great.
Okay.
I don't know that it's good, but it's great.
Yeah, this next tweet has been banned from the show. So
so you actually can't say if you tweet it, we'll read it and then not read it. So
Okay.
I'm going to give a shout out to Austin Geltz, the official mascot of Constructed Criticism.
Speaking of, the debate is on who is the mascot of @CCMTG, hashtag would that be good. We have Obi the puppy winning with 41% of the vote. Chantelle, have you seen my dog?
I have.
What do you think?
10 out of 10 dog. Good boy, wood pet.
Good boy, would pet. That is a hashtag that needs to be like at the end of every picture of a dog on Twitter, there should be a rating and then hashtag good dog would pet. That is like
there's like a we rate dogs. Yeah. Dog_rates on Twitter.
Oh, that's so great. That's a thing that I didn't know existed that I needed to know existed.
Everyone needs that in their life. This is a public service announcement.
So for those who don't know, there is if you actually go to constructedcriticism.com, there are multiple ways to support the show. You can do it through Patreon, you can do it through PayPal if you want to make a one-time donation. And now there's also a store with stickers, mugs, and t-shirts. And there are in fact Team Obi and Team Austin shirts. So if you want to support Team Obi, you can get a Team Obi shirt. If you want to support Team Austin, you can get a Team Austin shirt.
Is Austin's name spelled wrong?
It is spelled Godels.
Good. Well, that's the most important thing.
That is the most important part. I was gonna wear my GP Vegas shirt with Godel on the show today, but I didn't want to find it. So at Google Fiber, will you hook up my man Spencer 13H with some fiber? At Comcast is garbage and ruining the show for everyone. Hashtag would that be good. So fun fact, there is fiber's in Salt Lake, but I actually don't live in Salt Lake. I actually live in Murray. Why don't you have fiber, Michael?
Because it's not hooked up for the complex that I'm in.
What?
It has to actually be hooked up. It doesn't work the way you think it works.
Better question. Why aren't you stealing fiber, Michael?
Well, I mean,
there's got to be fiber 2 blocks away from you. Just steal it.
I also don't think it works like that, but I'll keep that in mind and try for next week.
Also, stealing fiber is not condoned by our sponsors or constructedcriticism.com. Apparently, I missed the coverage team at my LGS drafting. Instead, I watched at CCMTG. Hashtag would be good. You should always be watching the show instead of whatever else is on. I mean, you could be watching this or Dancing with the Stars, Mason, and I'm pretty sure that this should win out. So, although this show also comes on at the same time as The Bachelor, and a lot of our listeners apparently watch The Bachelor. Like, also the amount that we talk about The Bachelor on this show is probably inappropriate. So, yeah. So what did you learn this week, Michael?
Well, I learned that we should both improve our internet primarily. I also learned I learned quite a bit about just different experiences with relation to playing Magic and how the communities around Magic are, both good and bad.
Yeah, I learned 2 things. One, I feel really bad that like when a non-binary or woman is on coverage that they like feel immense pressure to win more so than someone else. That's actually really sad. We want you to win either way. So like, just know that the people are rooting for you, not that like you're letting people down. And 2, I learned that Canadians really do say boot when they say about, and they also drink Canadian Dry, which is pretty funny.
Mostly just me.
To be fair, I do love a Canada Dry and whiskey, so I don't blame you.
That's fair too.
Chantelle, what did you learn this week?
I learned that sometimes I should be grateful for Canadian internet, and Utah's main export is copper.
Yeah.
So that was a pre-show conversation, and thank you so much for coming this week, Chantelle. I will let you know when the podcast is edited to the point where it's listenable for the people that follow you on Twitter. We really do appreciate you coming on. Thank you everybody for listening, and don't forget to check out our sponsor at Oasis Games and going into patreon.com/ccmtg to become a patron of the show. We'll see you guys all next week.